Do you want to experience a mode that offers absolute chaos, has a massive potential for high kill games, and is incredibly fun to play? If so, then you're going to love Realism Ground War. This mode is truly bare bones Call of Duty at its finest. There's no HUD, no hit markers, and no map. Nothing to distract you from wiping out enemy after enemy. But what is the best way of actually doing this? How do you maximise your kills and go on longer kill streaks in this mode? Well, that's exactly what this video is all about. I'll be covering the best tactics for dropping high kill games, which weapons and kill streaks are best suited to this mode, plus all the tips and tricks you could ever need to win more gunfights and minimise your deaths. So, if you want to know how to improve your performance in Realism Ground War, then this is the perfect video for you. Let's start with what is possibly the most important piece of advice I could possibly give you. Headshots matter. Headshot damage is greatly increased in realism modes, therefore, the amount of bullets that you need to hit in order to pick up a kill is significantly reduced. This massively reduces the time to kill at any range, so it is definitely something that you should be exploiting. Think about it this way. Headshot kills are now instant at just about any distance. This means that you can kill more enemies per magazine, which means less time reloading, which means less time exposed, all of which translates into more kills for you. The increased damage also effectively extends the range of most weapons, as you can dish out huge damage at much longer distances compared to what would normally be possible in core modes. It also means that, if you've got the point-to-point accuracy, that tackling multiple enemy players at once suddenly gets much easier. If you can snap from headshot to headshot, then you can drop groups of enemies incredibly quickly. For this reason, you have got to focus on improving and maintaining your headshot accuracy in this mode. I would highly recommend using a precision sight attachment so that you can clearly see enemy heads. I'm personally a big fan of the 3x VLK scope or the GI mini reflex sight. Practice training yourself to hit headshots consistently. Make targeting enemy heads a force of habit for you, and I promise you, you will see just how much of a difference it really makes. This mode rewards accuracy above all else, and I cannot stress enough how important this is. So now you know how to kill more enemies in less time, but how do you actually apply this to your matches? How do you deal with 32 enemies who can all kill you in just a few bullets? The answer is to flank wide and play smart. Ideally, control and dominate a small section of the map that overlooks a high traffic area. Because of the brutal time to kill in this mode, you do not want to be in the centre of combat if you can possibly avoid it. I get that it might seem cool to take a one-man army approach, sprinting at enemies and objectives in a hail of explosions and gunfire. Sure, you can pick up some kills this way, but if you want to maximise your kills per game, that is just not the right approach. If you're caught in a big fight over an objective, then you're going to be dealing with more players than you can most likely handle. You'll be stuck between countless players, unable to move to a better position, and will be trapped by advancing infantry and vehicles. It doesn't matter how good you are, an enemy player of any skill only has to hit you a few times and you're done. To pick up more kills, you need to break down the game into manageable gunfights against less players. It's much easier to win battles against 1, 2, or even 3 players than it is to try and take on the entire enemy team by yourself. The best way of doing this is to head out towards the edges of the map, where the density of players is much lower. Try to make your way behind enemy lines, taking up a position overlooking an objective. You are so much better off shooting into high traffic areas than trying to deal with the masses of enemies charging towards you if you're sat on an objective. This is because enemy players won't be focused on you. They'll be too busy trying to push or defend their objective from more obvious threats. This allows you to wipe them out from an angle or area that they won't be expecting to be targeted from. Staying out of sight and out of mind gives you a huge advantage here, as far less players will think about pushing areas that aren't one of the objectives. You'll still have plenty of targets to choose from as well, and you will undoubtedly get pushed by enemies looking for revenge. But there will be less uncontrollable chaos and more gunfights where you have the positional advantage. This means more kills and less deaths for you. sticking to flanks will also keep you out of sight of the countless snipers that love to sit in the spawns and watch the centre of the map. I would also recommend switching the area, flank and position that you're using frequently within the same match. This is because the more enemies that you kill, the more attention that you'll draw to your position, which will only make your life harder. Changing up your approach regularly will keep your enemies on their toes and keep you alive for longer. As I've already mentioned, headshot accuracy and positioning are both crucial to success in this mode. Because of this, I want to take a little bit of time to talk about which weapons are best suited to the unique demands of Realism Ground War. I'd recommend a weapon setup that emphasises accuracy and control over just about anything else. You'll also need to use something that offers good effective range, as ground war maps are large and dynamic, so you're going to be fighting enemies across long distances fairly frequently. The last thing that you want is to miss out on kills because you haven't got the firepower to take down enemies at long range. I've had a lot of success with the M13 in this mode, as it offers incredible range and is very easy to control. Although there are plenty of other good options out there, such as the Kilo or Grau. Realistically, it doesn't matter what weapon you use, you just need to be able to control the recoil in order to hit those all-important headshots at all ranges. I will say though, that sniping is a big challenge in Realism Ground War. Assault rifles can tap fire very effectively at long ranges thanks to the increased headshot damage. Because of this, far more weapons can compete with snipers at extreme range. This reduces the overall effectiveness of snipers and generally makes them much harder to use. Earlier on in this guide, I briefly talked about the benefit of precision sights and how the improved visibility they offer is great for hitting more headshots. Well now, I want to talk a bit about another reason why they're so great in Realism Ground War. This is because they help compensate for the lack of signifiers. This is a whole point in and of itself, so I want to go into a bit more detail here. In this mode, there are no hit markers, no kill feed and no XP pop-ups. This means that the only indication that you've got that you've killed an enemy is when you physically watch their body drop to the floor. This might seem really obvious, but I promise you, in the intensity and chaos of a big firefight, it can get very difficult to tell if you've finished off a player. This can be a big problem, as you don't want to waste time and ammo shooting at a player that's already dead. This can easily get you killed, or at the very least make your life much harder. That's exactly why I'd recommend using a sight to improve visibility. You'll be able to see exactly when you've killed an enemy, so you can quickly switch to your next target. As well as this, I would also recommend turning off in-game music and increasing the effects volume specifically for this mode. This will make it easier to hear when your shots are hitting, or when they're missing and impacting a surface. There is also a distinct audio cue that will play if you successfully kill an enemy. As there is so little else that will tell you such information, this isn't something that you want to be missing out on. This is a small tip, but I found it to be very beneficial in some circumstances. Regardless, you need to pay attention to when you've actually killed an enemy. At long range especially, it can be challenging to recognise whether an enemy has died or not. That's why having a precision sight can be so beneficial in this mode, as it offers a much better view than most default iron sights. If you're racking up a lot of kills, it's probably worth thinking carefully about the kill streaks that you want to use. If you want to maximise your damage output, then I'd recommend running passive kill streaks that don't require your control. I prefer to run the Cluster Strike, Harrier and White Phosphorus. This is because I don't have to control any of them, which leaves me free to dish out damage on the ground, whilst my kill streaks wipe out enemies from the air. I personally wouldn't recommend running player controlled kill streaks like the Gunship or Chopper Gunner, as they will most likely get shot down before you can really get the most out of them. For the same reason, I wouldn't recommend using the Wheelson either. The main downside of these controllable kill streaks is that you lose valuable boots on the ground combat time. This is why I prefer passive kill streaks. They will get you kills, while still enabling you to pursue on the ground gun streaks. With regards to Specialist, it can be beneficial in this mode. There's never a time when having more perks won't help you, but I will say that it doesn't really offer as much potential for high kill games when compared to traditional kill streaks. I hope that this video has helped you. If you can build on the strategies in this guide and use the tips and tricks that I've provided, I guarantee you that you'll be able to improve your Realism ground war performance. Feel free to adjust any of the guidance in this video to suit your own needs, as you will always play best when you play to your own unique strengths.